Hello, watching Al24 Midnight News coming to you live from Algiers, and to the headlines. The Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune pledged to continue including women's and family issues among the most important concerns of the government. And coming up next, also 149 Spanish enterprises' future are now at risk as a result of Algeria's suspension of imports from Spain. Morocco has turned to external borrowing to overcome the ongoing economic crisis, bringing the kingdom's total debt to more than $70 billion. At least 6 Palestinians were killed Tuesday and 16 others were injured during an assault of Zionist entities' forces on the northern West Bank city of Jenin. Hello again and welcome. Starting from the local matter, the Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune pledged to continue including women's and family issues among the most important concerns of the government. The Algerian President, in a message on the occasion of International Women's Day, called on Algerian women to intensify their support for efforts to consolidate national solidarity and care for Algerians.
As I extend my sincere congratulations to you, and as you celebrate your day, I assure you that the issues of women and family will continue to be one of the most important concerns of the government, which I call on this occasion to intensify their support and accompaniment in order to consolidate national solidarity, women promotion, and the welfare of Algerian family.
In the same context, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune congratulated Algerian women on the occasion of International Women's Day. President Tebboune said that Algerian women prove that they are the pillar of Algeria's new march.
The statistics have proven the extent of the gains women have made, as they occupy an advanced percentage in many vital sectors, reflected in particular by the numbers of female affiliated in the sector of justice, education and health, proving that they are the pillar of Algeria's new march towards investing in people and in skills and excellence, and toward establishing a culture of integrity and the value of work, and rejecting all forms of corruption in the new era, in which there is no loyalty except to Algeria, and there is no goal that is higher than serving the people and fulfilling their hopes and aspirations.
Also, Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune received on Tuesday Polish ambassador to Algeria, which paid him a farewell visit after the end of his mission in Algeria, according to a statement of the Algerian presidency. In a statement after the reception, Polish ambassador praised the positive construction process of Algeria recently, stressing that it indicates a great success for it.
I completed my mission in Algeria after 7 years, but I will not forget, during which I was surrounded by great people and where I could see the positive developments in the process of building new Algeria, which I described as great success for Algeria compared to neighboring countries. Algeria remains a stable and peaceful country which opens up dialogue channels with everyone. The big history and the diversified wealth of Algeria are the main resources in which it will be necessary to invest in the future.
Algerian Secretary General Ammar Boulani received the head of the Croatian Parliament's Foreign Relations Committee, Gary Capelli. The meeting was an opportunity to renew the two parties, will deepen the excellent relations between the two countries, and develop bilateral cooperation in light of successful Algerian-Croatian political consultations that were held in Algeria a few days ago. The two sides also stressed the necessity of implementing the outputs that were agreed upon during the session, especially regarding inter-trade exchanges volume increase, bilateral cooperation, development, and successful experiences exchange. The suspension of imports from Spain by Algeria has put the future of 149 Spanish companies on edge. The Algerian market represents about 30% of their income, and the decision has resulted in losses of about 1 billion euros for the Spanish economy in the first 9 months of last year. Hussein Berkan.
The decision by Algeria to suspend its imports from Spain has become a major challenge for the Sanchez government, which is already struggling with the financial crises and diplomatic failures. The volume of losses has exceeded expectations and affected companies which are struggling to obtain compensation. As a result, Madrid has sought help from the European Union, requesting European subsidies to support companies that have been hit hard by the consequences of Madrid's change in position on the issue of the Western Sahara. The losses have been staggering, with Spanish exports falling from 1.88 billion euros in 2021 to just 176 million euros in 2022, an 84% decline. The Minister of Industry, Trade and Tourism has contacted the European Commission to request assistance for the affected companies. The damages have expanded to over 149 companies, which are now threatened with bankruptcy after losing a market share equivalent to 30% of their business based in Algeria. In contrast, Algeria has preserved its contract and adhered to its covenant in supplying gas to Spain in the contracted quantities, resulting in an increase in Spain's imports from Algeria by 23% to over 4 billion euros in the first 9 months of 2022. Spanish companies are now in a state of economic confusion, with Sanchez government resorting to joint European financing to compensate them after 20 Spanish companies threatened to file lawsuit against the government.
Still with Spain, the political organization Mas Madrid in the Spanish capital emphasized the importance of addressing historical aspects in the process of decolonizing Western Sahara. In a press conference led by the representative of the Polisario Front in Spain, Abdullah Al-Urabi, along with activists and supporters of the Sahrawi cause, they highlighted the historical, moral and legal responsibilities of the Spanish state and criticized the decision of Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez in favor of the Moroccan occupation. United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk called for an end to the violations and respects for freedom in Western Sahara. The UN official in his periodic report on the situation across the world within the framework of 52nd public session of the Human Rights Council stressed the need to revive the mechanism of the human rights conditions in the Sahrawi lands. In an effort to overcome the ongoing economic crisis, Morocco has turned to external borrowing with a loan request of $5 billion out of a total of $14 billion intended to borrow from domestic and international markets. This move will bring the kingdom's total debt to $70 billion by the end of the current year. Still in the African continent, Abdullah Batili, the UN envoy, met with the head of the Libyan National Unity Government, Abdelhamid Dbeiba, to discuss practical measures for implementing the UN envoy's initiative for holding fair and just elections in Libya. The National Unity Government expressed support for the UN mission's efforts to work with international parties towards reaching elections. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has urged leaders of the M23 rebel group in the Democratic Republic of Congo to respect a ceasefire agreement which came into effect on Tuesday. The UN chief said that ceasefire will create conditions for its full and effective withdrawal from all occupied areas. The peace agreement aims to put an end to fighting in eastern parts of the Democratic Republic of Congo.
The Secretary General urges the M23 to respect the ceasefire in order to create conditions for its full and effective withdrawal from all occupied areas in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo, in line with the decisions of the Luanda mini-summit held on the 23rd of November of last year.
In Europe now, French unions have pledged to continue protesting against proposed changes, including raising the retirement age from 62 to 64. Miriam Zian on What Follow.
In France, actions against pension reforms are in full swing. Demonstrations and renewable strikes grind the country to a halt. Trains came to a near standstill and many schools were shut and fuel deliveries were blocked from refineries. A series of strikes against Emmanuel Macron's planned pension reforms have started since the beginning of the year. And despite the millions of protesters against the reform, the government is determined to adopt it by Sunday.
C'est un problème démocratique.
It is a problem of respect for the people on the part of the President of the Republic. He has said repeatedly, I have changed, I listen. I think we make enough noise. Even if he has often been abroad on the days of protest, of mobilization, I think he is in France today. He knows what is happening in the country, so either he listens and he is the president of all French people, or he has decided to make it a personal matter, and then it is serious.
Une affaire personnelle et là c'est grave.
En tout cas, je pense qu'on a tous l'espoir ici de se dire.
Well, we all have the hope that this will change something today. And then I think people are relatively angry. And I hope that we will be able to make ourselves heard, because I think the government is not listening and has put on earplugs for some time. We also need this kind of rally to work on a national scale, because people have been taken to the streets on several occasions, and I think people in general have had enough.
Je pense que ça fait plusieurs fois que les gens descendent dans la rue et je pense qu'il y a un ras-le-bol assez général.
The government has said the pension legislation is necessary to tackle a funding deficit. But the reforms have angered workers at a time when they grapple with red-hot inflation. The legislation is currently before French lawmakers with a vote on the final version of the text expected later this month. But if it fails, the parliament could use constitutional powers to push it through. So will the French government, which wants to raise the legal retirement age from 62 to 64, succeed or surrender to unions?
Still in Europe, Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said on Tuesday that the seizure of Bakhmut in eastern Ukraine would allow Moscow's forces to mount further operations. This comes as Russian forces are getting closer to seize the city. Nabil Khazini on What Follow.
The daily bitter battle for control of Bakhmut may be reaching its endgame. For months, Russia was using all its might to take the city. It seems that this will be very soon achieved. But despite facing significant losses, Ukrainian forces are holding firm. They see the battle as a matter of principle.
Они не считаются с потерями, ни с людскими, ни с техническими. Они давят ихние.
To make Bakhmut is a matter of principle for them, and for us its matter of principle is to defend it. It's not just a city, it's a symbol, a fortress of Bakhmut.
Moscow has sent thousands of troops over recent weeks to try to capture Bakhmut and secure a major battlefield victory in more than half a year. Russian forces have advanced north and south of the city, cutting off 3 of the 4 supply routes for Ukrainian forces, leaving only one route, which is the road leading to the west.
The liberation of Bakhmut continues. The city is an important hub for defending Ukrainian troops in the Donbas. Taking it under control will allow further offensive actions to be conducted deep into Ukraine's defensive lines.
It was once a quiet place. Now Bakhmut has become an epicenter of the war and a wasteland.
China's foreign minister said that United States has distorted attitude towards China, and unless it changed its ways, conflict and confrontation will follow at a news conference on the sideline of an annual parliament meeting in Beijing.
If the United States does not hit the brakes but continues to speed down the wrong path, no amount of guardrails can prevent derailing or a crash, and there will surely be conflict and confrontation.
U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin made an unexpected visit Tuesday to the Iraqi capital, where he vowed to continue the fight against the so-called ISIS group until the extremists are defeated. This means that Washington is committed to keeping its military presence in the country. In 2003, the United States invaded Iraq, leaving the country in instability and eventually paving the way for the rise of extremist groups in the country.
I should underscore that U.S. forces are ready to remain in Iraq at the invitation of the government of Iraq to support the Iraqi-led fight against Daesh. And we're glad to be able to support your forces and defend the Iraqi people.
After a six-party alliance picked him as expected as its presidential candidate, Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, leader of the main opposition party, emerged as the main challenger to President Recep Tayyip Erdogan in May's presidential election. The alliance has vowed to reverse many of Erdogan's policies on the economy, civil rights and foreign affairs. However, analysts have questions that Kılıçdaroğlu's ability to pose a real threat to Erdogan, whose rule has been largely unchallenged since his rise to power in 2003.
As the heads of the political parties that make up the National Alliance, we have agreed on the roadmap for the transition to the strengthened parliamentary system.
In the Middle East, the Palestinian Health Ministry said that at least 6 Palestinians were killed Tuesday and 16 others were injured during an assault of Zionist entities' forces on the northern West Bank city of Jenin. It is worth mentioning that this is at least the third raid this year carried out by the occupation forces against Palestinians. The previous 2, one in Jenin and one in Nablus, each resulted in 11 Palestinian casualties. And now for more international news, let's follow this roundup by Marwa Blair.
Mexican president on Tuesday rejected any attempt at foreign intervention in Mexico after confirming the murder of 2 U.S. citizens kidnapped last week in Matamoros. White House said on Tuesday that U.S. officials are in touch with the families of the 4 kidnapped Americans, and President Joe Biden is being kept up to date about the incident, said Press Secretary Karen Jean-Pierre. 6 members of Peru's army died after they tried to cross a river last weekend, officials said, as they tried to escape the latest in a series of anti-government protests that have rocked the country over the past 3 months. Officials said the soldiers were attacked by protesters as they tried to reinforce security operations in the region. Protesters in the small ex-Soviet state of Georgia threw petrol bombs and stones at police on Tuesday night after Parliament gave its initial backing to a draft law on foreign agents, which critics say represents an authoritarian shift. Police in the capital Tbilisi used water cannon and tear gas in attempting to disperse thousands of demonstrators who feared the draft law would hurt the South Caucasus country's hopes of European Union membership. Italy's Interior Minister on Tuesday strongly rejected claims that government policies to discourage illegal migration played a role in a shipwreck off the nation's southern coast in which at least 72 people died. The official said that assertions that rescues were conditioned or even prevented by the government constitutes a serious falsehood that offends the honor and professionalism of their operators.
The Algerian mobile operator company Atia Mobilis has now become new owner of one of the most successful football clubs in the country, GSK, after purchasing the majority of club's shares. GSK's president Ja'far Aid Mawloud was optimistic about this decision, saying that the company, led by Shawqi Boukhazani, the current Mobilis director, has a professional vision of football, adding that he is a highly qualified person who wants to succeed with GSK. Within the African Football Clubs Tournament Champions League, CRB, or Belouizdad Club, regained its balance in Tuesday evening and preserved all the chances of reaching the quarter-final stage of the African competition. In the 19 May 1956 stadium at Annaba, eastern part of the country, the Algerian club, scoring one goal in the game through striker Islam Belkhir, managed to overcome the Sudanese club Al Marrikh, reaching 6 points in the second place after At-Taraji of Tunis with 9 points. The international cycling tour began in the center of Burj Bou'arij with the participation of 93 cyclists representing 12 countries. The first race against the clock took place at the distance of 4 kilometers. Germany's Adrian won the race, followed by the Dutch Kai Lars with timing of 5 minutes and 24 seconds, whereas Italy's Manuel was in the third place. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you ever so much for being with us in this news bulletin. And for more updates, you can follow our social media platform. All I can say at the end, good night.